much for clicking on this video. My name is Carolyn. This channel is all about true crime, mystery, and anything abnormal. I highly recommend subscribing because this channel is definitely a vibe. Today's story takes place in Medicine Hat, Alberta, Canada. On the morning of April 23rd, 2006, a young boy, 8 years old, woke up and he was really excited. He wanted to go over to his friend's house. So he got up, he had his breakfast, and he asked his parents, can I go over and visit, his friend? They want to play all day. And so his parents were like, yeah, absolutely. So he headed out of the house and he walked to his friend's house. The friend that he was going to see was 8-year-old Tyler Richardson. And when this little boy got to the house, he started knocking on the door. Nobody was answering. So he walked around and he looked down into the basement because sometimes the kids would hang out down there. And he was absolutely horrified. He just turned around and ran home to his parents. And as soon as he got home, he told his mother that he had gone to Tyler's house and no one had answered the door. He'd gone around, looked in the basement window, and he said that somebody was laying on the floor in the basement and they were dead. So obviously his mother calls 911 to report this to police. Police quickly arrived at the Richardson home and they had done the same thing. They knocked on the door, no one answered. So they went to look in the basement window where the little boy had reported that he had seen someone laying on the ground. When the police looked inside, they were alarmed. They could tell somebody was laying on the floor and they had no idea if this person was dead, if this person needed help. So they very quickly entered the home to see if they could offer assistance and figure out what was going on with this person. The police then enter the house and head straight to the basement. When they get down in the basement, they realize there's not just one body laying on the basement floor, there's two. Both bodies had a lot of blood around them and on them, and police could see stab wounds on their bodies. The two people were very quickly identified as Marc and Debra Richardson, who was Tyler's parents, who was the 8-year-old little boy that his friend was going to visit. Police then began searching the home because they know that there's two children that live in this home as well. And unfortunately, the next discovery they made was 8-year-old Tyler, who was laying in his bed and he had his throat slit. Police also knew that there was a 12-year-old daughter named Jasmine, and they had searched the entire house and they couldn't find Jasmine anywhere. Police very quickly issue an Amber Alert for 12-year-old Jasmine. Police at this point thought that possibly someone had come in, killed the family, and taken Jasmine. Police then began searching the home to see if there is anything that can give them any idea of who would have done this, where Jasmine might be. And they soon, after starting to go through papers and journals in 12-year-old Jasmine's room, they started to think maybe Jasmine wasn't missing and maybe Jasmine wasn't quite as innocent as they were thinking. Jasmine Richardson was born on October 21st, 1993. Police then start questioning people close to the family, and they also contacted teachers at Jasmine's school to kind of get some more information about Jasmine. When the police started interviewing people and asking people to tell them more about Jasmine, what they learned was that for most of Jasmine's life, she'd been a very well-behaved kid. But when she was 11, a year prior, she had made some new friends. Friends were quite a bit older than Jasmine, and they were goth kids, and they would wear, very heavy black eyeliner and, dark clothing, and they were really into heavy metal. And Jasmine had really, really gotten into the goth scene, and she was really into the music. And then this part's very strange to me, and I can't quite figure out how this ended up happening. But apparently at 11, when, Jasmine decided she was going to be goth, she wanted to go to these punk rock shows with her friends. So at 11, she was going out at night and going to clubs and different places where, these kind of punk bands would play music. So she's going to like concerts at bars at 11. It's very, very bizarre. I'm assuming she must have either been lying to her parents or sneaking out. I'm not really sure how an 11-year-old is going to like bars and clubs, but that's what was happening. So Jasmine at 11 starts going to clubs to listen to bands, apparently, and then she turns 12. Okay, so at 12, she's still going to these clubs, listening to these bands. And one time when she was at one of these clubs, she met a man named Jeremy. Jeremy was 23 years old. So we have Jasmine, who is 12, and Jeremy, who is 23. One thing about this case is people constantly will say she looked older than her age, okay? So yes, she may have looked older than 12, but she sure as hell did not look 18. She is a 12-year-old child. She's not even a teenager yet. And this 23-year-old man, Jeremy, develops quite a big interest in Jasmine. And Jasmine, she is very into Jeremy as well. The two of them start hanging out and then they start dating. So Jeremy, his name is Jeremy Steinke, which I think is a perfect last name for him. He was born January 15th, 1983, and he was a pretty troubled kid. He grew up in a home where the adults were drinking and doing a lot of substances. There was a lot of physical abuse that he suffered. He definitely had a very troubled childhood. But by the time he meets Jasmine, he's 23. He's not a kid. He's not a teenager. He's a full-grown adult. And Jasmine is a child, a 12-year-old child. And I guess to 12-year-old Jasmine, maybe she thought that Jeremy seemed cool because he was really into the gothic scene and he wore the dark makeup. And he also liked to drink blood. Also, Jeremy, I know I'm saying he's 23, but he's actually 300 because Jeremy apparently is a 300-year-old werewolf. After 12-year-old Jasmine meets 23 or 300-year-old, whatever you want to think, Jeremy, the two of them, they start talking online to each other, and it very quickly develops into a sexual relationship, which is a huge problem considering she's a child and he is an adult. So I'm not sure how long this relationship went on. I don't think it was very long before Jasmine's parents found out. And obviously, her parents are furious and forbid her to see, speak, or have any contact at all with Jeremy. They also take away her phone and her laptop so that she has no way to communicate with him. And Jasmine's parents thought that Jasmine was kind of getting better. You know, they had explained to her how inappropriate this relationship was and that it was not allowed, obviously. And so they ended up giving her her computer back because she had sort of, the parents were starting to see an improvement. But she had never stopped communicating with Jeremy. She had just made sure her parents didn't know that she was communicating with Jeremy. Both Jeremy and Jasmine would log on to this website called Vampire Freaks. So he's a werewolf, but he drinks blood, and he's on a website called Vampire Freaks. So I don't know why he's not a vampire, because I don't think werewolves drink blood. But anyways, he claims to be a werewolf. Okay. So the Amber Alert had gone out right away for Jasmine. Very quickly afterwards, when the police learned of Jeremy, that his picture was put all over the news and everyone was trying to find these two. The two of them were found in a city a couple hours away from Medicine Hat. They were both arrested and charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder. So the police start going through Jasmine and Jeremy's computers to see what are the conversations that the two of them are having. And they very quickly find out that the murder seemed to be Jasmine's idea, not Jeremy's. But Jeremy was absolutely more than happy to participate in the murders. They get the idea that Jasmine was the one who came up with the idea to murder her family. Was they find a message, and it's the first message between the two of them that mentions a murder plan. Jasmine had written to Jeremy, "I have a plan. It begins with me killing them and ends with me living with you." So neither of them were very good at trying to hide any of their intention of committing this murder, because there was lots of messages back and forth between the two of them talking about the murder that they were going to commit. And Jeremy, he's not only a 300-year-old vampire, he's a poet. Let me read you his poem, okay? It's called Payment. My lover's rents. Okay, so I don't know if you remember when people used to refer to their parents as rents. It was quite a long time ago. I guess this must have been going on at the time. Okay, let me start again. So the name of the poem is Payment. My lover's rents are totally unfair. They say they really care. They don't know what's going on. They just assume. Their throats I want to slit. They will regret the shit they have done. That's apparently a poem. I'm sure like Walt Whitman is probably like rolling around in his grave at the thought that that's considered a poem. And Jasmine, again, she's 12. She's a child. She's not even a teenager yet. And Jeremy and Jasmine, they would talk about this to all of their friends. Like, this wasn't a secret. And it's quite common when you have young people committing murders. They just, I don't know what they think. Like, it's magically they're going to get away with it and they're not going to get caught. I don't know. But they always just seem to have like no plan to actually hide evidence or anything. So they have all the evidence that they need, that this was planned out by the two of them. So police at this point, they're kind of assuming that Jeremy was the one who had committed the murders. And he didn't commit all of them. So Jasmine and Jeremy have their plan. They're going to kill all of Jasmine's family so the two of them can run away and be together. So on the night of the murder, Jeremy breaks into the basement of Jasmine's home and he's armed with a knife. The first person that he killed was Debra. She came down into the basement and he stabbed her many times. And it was very clear from her body and from Marc, the father's body, that both of them had fought back really hard. Unfortunately, Jeremy was able to overpower both of them and they both were stabbed to death. So what was Jasmine doing? Well, Jeremy's in the basement, first killing her mother and then second killing her father. She decides that she's going to kill her brother and she wants to be the one to kill her brother. Now, she claimed the reason she wanted to kill her brother was because she didn't want to leave her brother without his parents. And there's a really easy way to do that. It's you don't kill your parents, Jasmine. Okay, so you could have avoided it, but no, you want to kill the parents. So Jasmine, this 12-year-old girl, she is actually the one who had slit her little brother, 8-year-old Tyler's throat. And as I had mentioned, that this story takes place in Canada. So we have something called the Young Offenders Act. So because of Jasmine's age of 12, her name could not be released to the press at the time of the trial. So during the trial, and while all of this is going on and it's all in the news, she's referred to just as JR. So in June 2007, Jasmine goes on trial. And Jasmine is quite forthcoming with giving details and telling. 2007, Jasmine pled not guilty. She was very forthcoming of exactly what had occurred that night. And she was very honest about her participation in it. So then on July 9th, 2007, Jasmine was found guilty of 3 counts of first-degree murder. Because of her age, being only 12 years old, she was only sentenced to 10 years in prison. And 10 years is the maximum that she could have been sentenced because of her age. And Jasmine was, and I still believe to this day, she is the youngest person in Canadian history to be found guilty on multiple counts of first-degree murder. And then November 2008, then Jeremy goes on trial. Jeremy, at the time of the murder, again, he was 23 at the time of the murder. Jasmine was 12. He has the dumbest defense I've ever heard of. Okay, first of all, in the defense, they try to say, oh, he's on drugs and alcohol. Yeah, well, you took them yourself, so that's not going to help you. But he tried to use a defense that the reason he had to kill Jasmine's family was because he was afraid of losing her. And I don't know why you would think a defense for murder would be, I want to keep abusing the child that I'm sexually abusing as a defense. But I mean, what are you going to do? He's a 300-year-old werewolf. As shocking as it may sound, his defense, that did not work. So he was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 25 years. And in Canada, that is the maximum sentence you can get. Everyone's eligible for parole after 25 years. Do they usually get it when they have committed multiple murders? No, but they do have the possibility of parole. So, well, the two of them, they're both in prison. They're somehow sending letters to each other. So I don't know if they're sending letters to someone else who's forwarding them to each other, but somehow they're sending letters back and forth, communicating while they're both in prison. And the two of them decide that they're going to get engaged, which I don't know. Okay, whatever. May 2016, Jasmine was released. And in Canada, there really is a big focus in the prison system. It's very focused on rehabilitation, especially for children. Anyone under the age of 18, rehabilitation is usually the primary focus, more than, locking them up for the rest of their lives. And there has been quite a lot of success. We have this, it's called the Young Offenders Act. And these programs have actually proven to be quite effective. And from everything that we know, Jasmine has not reoffended. And the Jeremy, the 300-year-old werewolf, yeah, he's still in prison. He'll be there probably till he dies. He's not going to get out of prison. I know at 25 years, he has a possibility of parole. They're not going to let someone that's committed that horrific of a crime out of prison because he was 23 or 300, whichever. If you want to go by werewolf standards or human, he was a fully functioning adult when he committed those crimes. So that is the end of today's story. I would love to hear your thoughts on this case in the comments section below. Specifically, I would love to hear your opinions on the 10-year sentence that Jasmine served and whether or not you agree with that, whether I'd love to know your opinion on it. Because the thing about it is, I know in Canada, it makes sense, I think, to Canadians, but I know other countries sometimes view Canadian punishments as very light especially compared to America, for sure. So yeah, I'd love to know your thoughts on that, because I don't know, like 12 years old, you are a child, like you're not even a teenager. But so I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone who likes, subscribes, does all the magical YouTube things that you all do. And I appreciate you so much coming back, watching each and every video, and do something today that makes your soul happy. And I will see you in the next one.